Hello, dear friends. Ken Graves back here with you with GodSword. It is Monday, September 16, the year 2024. We will continue, as the Lord allows, through Amos, now in the 6th chapter. Amos chapter 6. Some of you have emailed and were understanding. I'm profoundly grateful for your understanding. And among those who expressed their understanding and patience with regard to the pause of this daily study, some pointed out that there were other teachings that they were able to take advantage of, all of the CRD lectures and a number of services that they had taken in. And anyway, I just want to say to you, thank you. You've been doing that. Now, we will, as the Lord allows, persevere through all of this and continue. Amos chapter 6. Woe to those who are at ease in Zion, and to those who feel secure in the mountain of Samaria. The distinguished men of the first of the nations, to whom the house of Israel comes. When God says, woe to those who are at ease in Zion, and to those who feel, or the word feel is in italics, but they have a sense of security. It's a false sense. It's not. It's an illegitimate peace. It is possible for people to live in, I don't know, a degree of peace only because of the profound ignorance that they actually have with regard to what is coming. Their short-sightedness, their blissfully ignorant of the terrible things that may be just around the corner with regard to the judgment of God. So God here says, woe to those who are at ease at a time when the warnings of God from the prophets of God with regard to judgment should have been heeded and people should have expected. Particularly at this time, the coming invasion. But they don't. Verse 2, pass on over to Calneh and look, and go from there to Hamath the Great, and go down to Gath of the Philistines. Are they better than these kingdoms? Or are their borders greater than your borders? Do you put off the day of calamity? And would you cause the seat of violence to approach? So there are other cities, other significant and great cities that had already fallen, had already experienced the judgment that was coming toward Zion. They heeded no warning, and pagan cities like Gath, Calneh, they experienced calamity. The calamity was not avoided. And in verse 4, those who lay down on beds of ivory and sprawl on their couches and eat lambs from the flock and calves from the midst of the stall, who improvise to the sound of the harp, and like David have composed songs for themselves, who drink wine from sacrificial bowls while they anoint themselves with the first pick of the oils, yet they have not grieved of the destruction of Joseph. So experiencing luxury, experiencing riches, knowing a degree of prosperity and comfort. And there, during this time that Amos prophesies, there was, for some, significant prosperity, just as it is now in America. The rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. And what was in between the two is disappearing. And God would likewise extend the same kind of warning to us in America at this particular time. The statement that, enjoying all of this luxury, yet they have not grieved over the destruction of Joseph. Therefore, they will now go into exile among the first of the exiles, and the sprawlers, banqueting, will turn aside. The sprawlers. They didn't sit in chairs at tables, banquet tables. They sprawled. They stretched themselves out. They reclined. The sprawlers banqueting will turn aside. So all of that relative prosperity and ease and peace, all of that was about to be interrupted. Verse 8, Lord Yahweh has sworn by himself, Yahweh God of hosts has declared, I abhor the lofty pride of Jacob and hate his citadels. Therefore I will deliver up the city as well as its fullness. And it will be, if 10 men are left in one house, they will die. Then one's uncle, or the one who burns his bones, will lift him up to bring out his bones from the house. And he will say to the one who is in the innermost part of the house, is anyone else with you? And one will say, no one. Then he will answer, keep quiet, for the name of Yahweh is not to be mentioned. For behold, Yahweh is going to command and will strike the great house to pieces and the small house to fragments. Do horses run on rocks, or does one plow them with oxen? You plow rocks with oxen? No. Do horses run on rocks? It's all rhetorical. No. And yet you have overturned justice into gall, and the fruit of righteousness into wormwood. These are poisons, gall and wormwood. You who are glad in Lo Debar, and say, have we not by our own strength taken Kanyaim for ourselves? Behold, I'm going to raise up a nation against you, O house of Israel, declares Yahweh God of hosts. They will press down on you from Lebo Hamath to the brook of the Arabah. So God, his statement about hating the lofty pride of Jacob and hating his citadels, the fortresses, their towers. They put their trust in those things instead of in Yahweh and looking to Yahweh. They looked to false gods. They have betrayed Yahweh, and God makes it plain that judgment is coming. The kind of judgment where if 10 men are left in one house, they're going to die. Now, whoever the family member is, the one who burns his bones, will lift him up and bring out his bones from the house. He'll say to the one who's in the innermost part of the house, is anyone else with you? And that one will say, no one. And he will answer, keep quiet. For the name of Yahweh is not to be mentioned. Behold, Yahweh is going to command and will strike the great houses to pieces and the small house to fragments. So it was coming. That kind of judgment would come. And it would come because, as God says, because you've overturned justice into gall, because of the exploitation of the poor, because of their refusal to do what is right toward one another. God is watching their business. God is watching their interaction. So not only because of the idolatry that they were guilty for their betrayal of him, but also because of their treatment of one another. The statement, you've overturned justice into gall, and the fruit of righteousness into wormwood. God says, I'm going to raise a nation against you, O house of Israel. They'll press down on you from Lebo Hamath. So God, through the keeper of sheep, Amos, the prophet. God warns of a coming judgment and states the reason for that coming judgment. And God warns that all of this ease, or this false sense of ease, was all going to be interrupted. It wasn't going to remain like that. And there are many today, because we have abandoned culturally, as a nation, we turned our back on God. We have abandoned him, his law. We have disrespected him, and in the process of disrespecting him, we have corrupted our legal system. We have corrupted everything. Our government agencies. We have turned justice into gall. Poisoned the whole thing. Because of our lack of respect for God, we have no longer the same level of deep appreciation for humanity made in the image of God. And so we are, as a nation, as a people, guilty, and we continue to invite the judgment of God. May God have mercy upon us. May God, as he has, continue to have mercy upon us. And yet there are ways, if a person will open their eyes to it, that in the cause and effect universe that we live in, there are ways in which we are already suffering the consequences of our own bad choices. We are already suffering. We already have an entire generation of our sons and daughters have been taken as slaves to foreign enemies through the drug trade. The whole nation is being poisoned through government agencies that are supposed to be looking out for us. Big pharma, the greed, the love of money, the root of all kinds of evil. The oppression, the generational theft of government spending what it does not have. You must certainly agree with me that there are, to a certain extent, there are legitimate reasons for us to conclude that so much of what we've invited upon ourselves nationally would fall under the category of the judgment of God. I know it could be a lot worse. My point is that God has been very merciful, even while we continue to nationally invite his judgment, and especially with what we're doing to the babies, the murder of the millions of babies. And now an entire election hangs on this pagan, idolatrous, perceived right to murder the unborn. We indict ourselves nationally. God have mercy upon us. Anyway, that's our study, and I believe God has been merciful. I pray he'll continue, and that in his mercy he will reprove us and open our eyes and bring about a revival, a return, a great awakening. That is my prayer. Please pray that with me. We'll continue our journey, and we'll pick up right where we left off, the Lord willing, tomorrow. And I believe we've come into a better season, and I aim to be consistent. Appreciate all of your patience and your prayers. We'll carry on. All right. Grace and peace to you all.